Hi violin players! Today we're going to be working on the second half of Minuet 3, starting after the first repeat. For many of you that's the fifth line in your Suzuki book. If you haven't already watched the video for the first half of Minuet 3, start with that because there will be some things that I'll be referring to that I talked about in that video. Alright, so I'm going to start by doing a playthrough of lines 5 and 6 and then I'll break it down a little for you. So this is starting at measure 17. 1, 2, 3. Something that's unique about these two lines is that we have a new finger pattern. For these two lines and these two lines only, you'll see that you have C sharps on your A string. So your second finger is going back up to the high 2 position. On your E string, it will remain in the low 2. We still have G naturals there. So E string will have low 2s, A string will have high 2s for just these two lines. The second thing you may have noticed is that it starts off right away with that same bowing pattern, the down, slur, separate pattern that you've gotten so good at from the first half. And then just remember that for every down bow, you're still going to the tip, so you have enough room for those slurs. So I'm going to demonstrate that on the first two measures, and then I'll show you something else that's a little tricky about this. Okay, so it's that same bowing pattern. Now this line, the line that starts with measure 17, is one of the trickiest in the entire piece, and that has to do with intonation, whether or not your notes are in tune. It's hard to play in tune on your E string. We've got a fourth finger, which makes it even trickier, and we're going from that fourth finger to a low 2, which we know is a challenging finger pattern on any shoulder string instrument. So I would start off just making sure that my hand position is good, that I have a straight wrist, that my elbow is directly under the violin, that it's not brought around too much because you don't have to reach as far on your E string as you would on the lower string. And also make sure that your elbow isn't sticking out the other side too. So just kind of directly under your instrument in a nice position where your wrist is straight and your fourth finger falls kind of naturally on that tape. So let's practice that first interval. That's our fourth finger to our low 2. We'll just do that a couple times to make sure we got it. Could do better, try it again. And one more. Okay, so that's my interval that I'm going to start right off with, and then just take it slow. If you need to do that line without slurs first, just to make sure that your notes are in tune, that is totally fine. It would be like this. Alright, and don't forget about that C sharp at the end. It sneaks up on you at the end. I'm going to go back and add those slurs. I'm going to go slowly, and you can check your notes against mine. And just, yeah, check out that hand position. Make sure that you're getting to the tip on those down bows still, even when we're working on intonation, because a good sound helps you play it better in tune. Alright, here's the line that starts with 17. Ooh, that fourth finger was rough. I should have checked my hand position before I started. Here I go. One more time for good luck. This is the line of 17, line 5 for many of you. Ready, go. Alright, I'm going to move on to line 6. A common problem I see in line 6 is that it starts with eighth notes, so in comparison when we get to the quarter notes in measure 22, those are going to feel slow. So make sure you're using your bow distribution, nice big long bows, to make sure that you're playing those quarter notes nice and steady. So I'm going to play through that line. This is line 6. Starts with a scale. We still have our C sharp, so remember your high 2s on your A string. Ready, and go. Long, long. All right, and on those last 2 measures, we have a hooked bow, right? Down, up, down, 2, 3. And just make sure that you're not rushing that hook bow. That's a common thing I see. It's that same rhythm that we've been doing, right? Down, up, up. The notes just change. So make sure that you're doing a nice steady beat for every measure where you have quarter notes. That's measures 22 and 23 in this line. Do that line one more time so you can check your rhythm. Ready, and go. And then there's the bow lift at the end of that line. It may not be marked in your book, but you can go ahead and mark that right at the end. All right, that's after measure 24. Okay, moving on to the next line. It starts with measure 25. We have a rhythm that goes do, do-day, do, do, do-day, do. Make sure those quarter notes stay nice and long. You're using a lot of bow with that. I'm going to play those 2 measures. So you see how much bow I used on those quarter notes. I still went to the tip for every down bow, keeping with our old theme. And then the next 2 measures, 27 and 28, we've got another hooked bow that changes notes. So we're keeping that nice and steady as well. Here's 27 and 28. And I use an open A for the first note of measure 28 and a 4th finger for the last. Here's measure 27 and 28 one more time so you can get that tricky rhythm. Ready, and go. All right, I'm going to do that whole line. This is line 7, starting with measure 25, so you can hear the rhythm. It starts on a down bow because I did that bow lift coming from the previous line. So here I go. Ready, and go. And just 2 connections that we can make with something from the previous video. You do have an F sharp on your D string. Make sure that is up and nice and high, like pushing right up against that 3rd finger G. All right, and then something else is we have that same rotation to our 4th finger in measure 26. So it's just like in the beginning. It's that same skill that you've already practiced getting to that 4th finger. A lot of these skills come back in the minuets. All right, one more time on that line, and then I'm going to do line 8. Here's measure 25. Last line. So in measures 29 and 30, the first 2 measures of that line, it's a rhythm we've seen before. It's the same as 21 and 22, it's just down a string. Long, long, long. And then we have something similar, we just get a little fancy. We have do-day, hooked, bow, 1, 2, 3. So the last 2 measures of the page. Again, ready, and. All right, here's the whole last line one more time. Ready, and go. next going to do a full playthrough starting from measure 17 until the end of the page. A little on the slow side so we can put everything together that we worked on. Ready? And go.